Hey everyone, James here again. If you've been subscribing to Music Biz for a while, then you've probably seen our videos about going to college for music business. Now in most of these clips, I argue against this decision because there's a lot of places out there that will take your money in exchange for an education that won't really get you anywhere and won't teach you the things you need to get ahead on your own. But today, we're going to take a different look at it. We're going to look at why you should study the music business and how to do it. Starting with the most basic part of this, why study music business? And the reason is because you want to succeed in it. It's that simple. There's so many people out there today who claim to be musicians or claim to be managers or promotions experts, and none of them have actually spent time studying the music business. Instead, they're what I like to call really highly qualified fans, meaning that they know more about their favorite musicians and how their careers operate than most people, which can be a good start. I mean, if you know how Post Malone got so big, how he built his audience, how he markets himself, what his brand is, and how he makes sure that that brand is emphasized throughout all the different channels where he's present, that can actually teach you a lot about the music industry. But a lot of these people that claim to be really passionate about music haven't taken that extra step to look at it from a business side, from a capitalistic side, if you will. They're obsessed with the artistic side of it, which is great, but if you want to be successful in this industry, then you need both halves. You need to be both interested in the art of it all and the business of it all, and that's why we study music business. Now, I think the vast majority of people who end up working in music take this route where they find an artist that they really love or a group of artists and they begin to look a little bit deeper at their career. I know for me, I found a label when I was a teenager that I absolutely loved. I mean, every single release they put out was fantastic. And after a while, I started to wonder how their business operated because they kept signing bands that I liked, even though they didn't all sound the same. And I wanted to know what made this perpetual money-making machine grow. And so what I did was I started to look at each release and how it was marketed and how it was sold, and I learned about branding. And after a little while, I reached out to the label and I became an intern through street team work. And basically they would mail me boxes of CD samplers back when CDs were still a thing, and I would go out to concerts or to festivals or really to school, anywhere that there were teenagers, and I would give them CD samplers and I would talk about my favorite band and how this song on this sampler was something they absolutely had to hear. And that was, my first taste of how the music industry operated. But as I grew up and I started to tell people I want to work in the music business, I want to be somebody that spends every day thinking about music and thinking about how to get people to listen to more music, my parents and other people who know far more than me said that I needed more than just that passion, that basic energy where I like to talk about the things that I enjoy, because truth be told, most people working in the music business don't spend every day talking about their favorite artists. They talk about the artists that they get paid to talk about or the artists that pay their bills. And these can be very different from the artists that they prefer to listen to. I mean, I know people who make a living in the world of metal whose favorite band is Modest Mouse and vice versa. That's just how this industry works. So I needed to learn how to look at it from a professional standpoint. What were the in and outs? Look at the music business for what it is. A machine that generates money by taking in listeners and listeners' tastes and listeners' money. So to learn how that works, I had to start studying on my own. And by doing that, I started with books, because this was in a time before podcasts, which can be a great way to learn, and definitely before YouTube had channels like Music Biz, which, by the way, take a second now and subscribe. So I started to read books, like everything you need to know about the music industry, which is kind of like a Bible on how the music industry operates. There are also authors like Jesse Cannon and Damian Keyes, both of whom are here on YouTube as well, who can tell you about how the music industry works using practical advice and actual real-world examples, meaning that they take an artist or a group of musicians and walk you through their process. How did they succeed and what makes them successful? I also started to look into how different aspects of the industry worked. What was distribution? What was marketing? What is production? What does it mean to produce an album versus mixing an album versus mastering an album? All of these factors are important, and you might know what you want to do in the music business. I mean, I knew what I wanted to do when I was first starting out. I wanted to work for a very specific record label, being a very specific role within that company. But that's not how this industry works. More often than not, you're going to have a bunch of different roles at a bunch of different companies, and they probably won't look anything like what you picture in your brain. So the best way to prepare yourself to succeed in this industry is through studying it, through learning how every single thing works, the things that you're very passionate about and the things that you're just curious about, so that when an opportunity arises, be it to be the head of distribution for a record label or the marketing manager for a new artist, you already have an idea of how to do that role. And if it's something that speaks to you, if it's something that interests you, if it's something you think you would be a good fit for, then you're ready to hit the ground running. But let's break it down into specifics. So first and foremost, should you go to school to study the music business? And that's a question that is really hard to answer. I mean, we've made at least 2 videos about it previously. And in the shortest possible terms, yes, if it's 1, something that you can afford, and 2, you know what you want to do in this industry, and 3, you're passionate about this industry. Because it is very expensive and it only works for a very small amount of people. There are a lot of people that have degrees in music business and far less people who are actually working in the music industry. So you have to make sure that it is absolutely what you want to do. Don't go to school thinking you might want to work in it, because you're just going to waste a bunch of money and realize that it's not for you. Next, you're probably thinking, if I'm not going to go to school for the music business, how do I study it? And like I said, we live in a beautiful age for educating yourself, because there are podcasts, there are books, there are audiobooks, there are YouTube videos, there are free digital conferences and panels and webinars and all sorts of materials to help you educate yourself. Not to mention old school stuff like books. There are countless music industry books, and some of the people I've already mentioned, like Jesse Cannon, have really, really great, easy to read instructionals that will teach you the music business inside and out. And that book, Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business, it's probably in like its 20th edition at this point, and it is a guide that every college student will read. So if you pick up just that book and Jesse's book, you'll already have a good chunk of most people's college education in your hands for less than $100. But beyond that, it's all about what you do with the time that you have. So if you're working a 9 to 5 right now, or you're working a part-time job and you're really passionate about the music business, the best 2 things you can do for yourself is 1, constantly consume information about the business of music. And again, I don't mean music news like the latest music videos or the latest tour dates or anything like that. I mean actual music industry news. Who are the major players? What are the big labels doing? How is Fortnite making such a big impact in the music business? How does distribution work? Why is Spotify preferred by more people than Apple Music? And how will a company like Amazon separate themselves from those 2 giants in the world of music streaming? Speaking of streaming in general, where is it going to go in the future? Is video podcasts the future of streaming services? Will streaming services have editorial departments making things like Rolling Stone and music blogs no longer necessary? Where is this industry headed? Those are the types of things you should be learning about, because if you do get lucky enough to get a job interview, people are going to ask you your thoughts on that. They're going to ask you what's happening in the music business and where you think it's headed. So educate yourself about that. And the second thing that you can do, the other half of this, first one being to educate yourself, is to find real world practice. And by that I mean offer your services to somebody, offer to help market the local artist that you absolutely love, or help promote shows at the local venue, or try to get the sound guy at that venue to teach you how to run his board. There may be very few options where you are, but there is always a way to learn firsthand from people who are working, because if there's anything the industry needs, it's people who are excited about the business that are willing to work for free or next to nothing in order to learn about the industry itself. There are countless opportunities out there, and if you need extra ones, you can check holicsdaily.com/jobs. That's where the music industry job board lives, or LinkedIn, or Indeed, or a million other services. But it's all about what you put into it, because this is not an industry for people who think that they can get a certain certification or a certain degree or read a couple of books and suddenly everyone is going to want to work with them. The people that are employed right now are fighting tooth and nail to stay employed every single day. And if you want to get into this game, that's the kind of scrappy behavior that you have to have. You have to be somebody that is willing to fight for this, because that's what you will do for the rest of your life. And I know that that might seem scary, but it's the truth. And after a while, it's just what you do. That's why when you see people in the music business get together, they're always so happy to see one another. They're always so cordial. They're always very open and understanding about people's problems, because, hey, we're all in this battle together. It's not really a singular entity that we're against. It's just making a living in entertainment is hard. And the best way that you can prepare to exist in this world is to study, to take it upon yourself to learn how this industry works. End to end, whether it's recording music and releasing it, marketing artists and getting releases out into the world, where money comes from, what are neighboring rights. There are a billion things you can learn, so there's no excuse to ever stop. I've been in this business for over a decade now. I'm still studying every single day. I'm listening to podcasts, I'm watching videos, I'm trying to figure out how things work, because it is a big, complicated game, and the more you know, the farther you'll get. And speaking of studying for the music business, because that is something that matters a lot to us here, if you don't know where to start, if you don't know what books to read because you don't like to read and you're not really that into podcasts, but you're watching this video, then go ahead and click the subscribe button, because Music Biz exists to help you understand and navigate the modern music business. We bring you news, we bring you tutorials, we bring you predictions about what's going to happen in the months and years ahead. So if you haven't done so already, click that button. And if you have, then you have my sincerest thanks. I appreciate you watching this video, and I hope that if nothing else, you take care of yourself, because you deserve it.